No one likes to lose, and sometimes it feels like everybody in the lobby is focusing on you. But is this something you can fix? Let's break it down. So today we're going to be going over getting comfortable in a couple of situations, such as 1v1 fights, third parties, and endgame, and we'll touch about not choking or panicking in those situations. Then we'll move into talking about mechanical skill and how it can help in a tight situation like when you're low on health or in a pinch. Lastly, we'll take a look at RNG and how to minimize its impact on your game. We'll also touch on how positioning and rotating can also minimize your RNG. So let's hop right into it. I do want to ask you guys quickly, if you do enjoy these videos or any of my content, to leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps me create more content for you guys. Other than that, let's hop right into the video. Practicing can make you more comfortable with a lot of things. The more you practice a certain high ground retake or a certain edit, the more confident that you'll be able to nail it in a stressful situation. In a similar fashion, pro players practice customs or arena every day because, to an extent, every game is going to pose new difficulties and every endgame will be in some sort different from the last. But playing a ton of games and experiencing as much and as many varying possibilities will do more than just give you practice in those situations, but it will also help you train your reflexes and problem solving skills, as you're going to be experiencing some new things that you may not be used to, and the faster you can solve and fix something you may have messed up on once will help reduce your chance of choking or panicking in those situations in the future. I would categorize 3 main points in a game where you might panic or choke more often. The first being late game, the second being a third party, and lastly a 1v1 individual fight. I've been playing Fortnite for quite some time, and towards the beginning of playing, I've had a really hard time staying calm in later game situations. I know every time I'd get into an endgame, I'd always start to get nervous and would kind of scuff my builds and edits and get real shaky because I was so close to a win. And because I got so shaky, I would stress hardcore, and a lot of the times I'd end up choking the game completely. This happened more often in solos, as I was playing alone and I had no one to fall back on if I ended up messing up. That's why it's not a bad idea to play some games with friends, or at least do some duo or squad fills so you have someone to talk to and distract you if you start to stress or panic in endgame. Another way I would take my mind off of being in endgame would simply be to play more aggressive. Sometimes I would end up killing the last guy without even realizing it was the last guy. And since you're constantly fighting, you don't have time to think about being nervous, and it'll also help you get more engagements, which leads to third partying. And third partying can be pretty devastating if you underestimate it, and can cause a fight where you have an advantage to turn upside down. Good practice is to make sure that you cover as many angles as possible if you're on height, to make sure you can't be shot from someone far out. But if someone does decide to push in close, which is typically what you'll run into, making sure you don't get tunnel vision is important. I've had many of you ask if I could go into more depth with tunnel vision, so let's break it down. Awareness, overprotection, and getting over-focused are the main points. Getting over-focused is usually what I see happen to most players. Say I start to get third-partied, but instead of staying on height and holding any advantages that I may have, I jump down and try to finish the player who's underneath me, and basically give up any sort of advantage that I would have had. You might have to give up a kill by letting the third party clean up the kill you were first fighting, but you'll be in a great spot to fight the next player. But say you get knocked down, or maybe your squad or duo died, and you have to fight more than one player at once. Both awareness and overprotection tie together really well to make sure that you won't get cracked from angles you wouldn't expect. For example, once I get to height, I always block off angles that are exposed to large parts of the map, just in case somebody wants to send some shots my way. It is situational, but being aware of your surroundings and where certain things or landmarks are around you. For example, if you have a storm to your back, you're of course probably not going to end up blocking off behind you. But if you have a huge mountain to your left, you're going to want to throw up a wall or something to protect yourself just in case someone does end up climbing up there. If you're in a build fight, it's a little bit different because tracking players through builds with sight or sound is a little bit harder, and making sure you block off angles where players could possibly be will help make sure you get cracked and can help you isolate one of the players alone to make sure you can take them out and kind of fight everybody one at a time. But if you can manage to get a pure 1v1 fight, they can be rough, especially when you're fighting someone who's better or the same skill level as you. You can end up making silly mistakes, or they may just shut down every move or attempt you make and won't allow you to gain any sort of advantage. This can either make you panic or choke your future builds or edits and put you in a rough spot. This will be something you will more than likely experience the most out of these three situations, but it is one of the harder to fix. Just like endgames, shifting how you approach your playstyle can help though. Switching to a more aggro approach or fighting more talented opponents, which I'll touch on a little bit later, are some of the more basic ways to fix this. Now, you always have 1v1s in creative mode, but I recommend fighting as many different players as possible because over time you end up picking up habits that your friends have and you don't get to experience the vast styles that many players have, and you get used to countering the same move over and over instead of learning to counter for a variety of moves from a ton of different players. A huge component of Fortnite is being mechanically skilled, but not only does it win you fights, it can also help you clutch and not choke in certain situations. Being able to nail all of your edits or being able to outbuild someone when you have 20 health without being able to be hit is a huge advantage. And a lot of people make fun of creative warriors because they grind builds and edits more than in-game situations, but I think the skill that they have is invaluable, and striving to get as mechanically talented as possible will also help you not choke out more fights. I've talked about this before, but over time the skill ceiling in Fortnite will rise, and constant practice and learning new techniques is necessary to make sure you stay on top of your game. But you can't practice everything in creative mode. Becoming a better player and being able to grasp certain situations require you to play the game, and to play it a lot. But playing with a goal in mind is the best way to succeed, even if the goal is as small as getting your first win or dropping a 20 bomb. You have something to strive for and something to work at. From there, you can start to look at your gameplay and see exactly where you're going wrong and learn from it. A couple of examples are, say, if you're more of a passive player, forcing yourself to play aggressive will help you get into more fights and will force you to become more comfortable fighting players and taking fights in general. Or if you feel like you're rather good at pubs, you can try to play at a higher level of play like Arena. Or if Arena is somewhat comfortable, grinding customs as much as possible. Always putting yourself in situations that you're not comfortable with will help you learn and understand them in a way no other form of learning can provide. You may lose more games or not play as well as you have previously, but you're going to see your skill level increase, and when you go back to Arena or pubs, you're going to feel like you can take on anyone. Now, when you're out of your comfort zone, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's only natural, but making sure that you try to gain something out of a loss and a W is important. Both give great examples of what to do and what not to do, but on the flip side, it also shows you what your opponent did right or wrong. And by looking at everything together, you can start to build a picture of what works in certain situations and how you were able to beat certain players and how players were able to beat you. But learning and picking up on these little things will help you capitalize when you see someone else make the same mistakes in the future. RNG can be one of the most annoying aspects of Fortnite, but learning to manage and control it is easy and can drastically affect how much you survive in more situations than you'd think. Hands down, the number one time RNG affects a game is your drop spot. I remember Tfue talking about how he would never land at a POI such as Salty or Pleasant in comp because he can't see what gun he actually is landing on, and he has no way of assuring that he's even landing on a gun. But instead, landing somewhere that has open floor spawns, such as the block, which you can see from the sky, will make sure you're not 50-50ing a chest that you may only get a semi-auto sniper out of. Now, late games can be a little bit RNG dependent, but rotating smartly is something that I really never realized, as Fortnite was my first ever BR, and I wasn't always the best FPS player beforehand, so things such as positioning were new to me. And after I realized how important they were, it helped me more than I can even emphasize. But rotating and positioning through late game is important in both pubs and comp. I won't touch on comp rotates in today's video because it deserves its own video entirely. But rotating through pubs is a little bit more loose and less strict as the players alive are more spread out. Of course, the best place to be is high ground as it'll allow you to control and see where everybody else alive is, but there's not always going to be a mountain around, or you may be low on mats and there's not a really great place to base up. So putting yourself in an area to pinch players rather than being pinched in between other teams is important. Obviously, middle of zone is not going to be a great spot to be, as no matter where players are in the zone, they're going to have an angle on you unless the terrain is extreme. The goal should be to minimize how many angles players have on you, but at the same time, maximizing the amount of angles you have on other players. Thank you guys all for watching today's video. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and if you did, make sure to follow me over on Twitch. I've been streaming over there more recently, and I'll be having my full schedule out soon. Other than that, make sure to like and subscribe for more future tips and tricks and tutorials. And if you want some more right away, check out the playlist and videos on screen for some great ways to elevate your game. Other than that, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.